Welcome into the official. This is part 2 of our sleeper show. If you didn't catch last week, go back. We did quarterbacks, tight ends, and some recent commitments that are probably going to be fantasy relevant. And then this week, we are continuing the sleeper theme. We are going to jump into 3-star running backs and receivers. And these are the types of guys who can absolutely change the landscape of your Campus Canton team. Just the guys like Quinshon Judkins. And there are others, Damian Martinez. Last year, these are 1,000-plus yard performers as true freshmen, and they were 3-star running backs. Also, reverting back to the quarterbacks from last week, but Anthony Richardson for most of the process was a 3-star. So do not sleep on 3 stars. We are here to tell you the guys you need to be paying attention to. This is the official. Check out campuscanton.com. I'm also going to mention homefieldapparel.com. Go check them out. Campus2 Canton is the promo code to get 15% off your first purchase at Homefield Apparel. It's comfortable, it's soft, and it's innovative designs with kind of retro-ish stuff for tons of colleges. They even have like St. Peter's, who went to the Elite Eight or something a few years ago and got licensed for their apparel right away. But tons of colleges, guys you wouldn't even, all the big names, but then a ton of ones. Colorado School of Mines, tons of smaller schools that you may like for one reason or another, and you can get great apparel there. So, all right, that's enough of that. We got to jump in. We got like 20-plus running backs and receivers to go through. It is going to take a while, but it's going to be worth it because we never know when one of these guys is the next Quinshon Judkins. Let's start with probably the highest-rated guy. I think he was a 4-star at one point. I think David Eziomume is probably one of the higher rated on this whole thing. He's going to Clemson. 6 feet, 205, 21.2 miles per hour, ranked as a running back 35 right now. Matt, what do you think about him? I kind of liked him recently. What's your take?
Yeah, I actually like him a lot. I was watching North Cobb full games at the beginning of last year to watch Benjamin Hall, and David actually ended up sticking out to me because he was pushing for time against Benjamin Hall, and they had another senior running back last year, and he kind of played all over for them. A little bit of running back, a little bit of wide receiver, even some inline work, as you'll see in the next clip. But so he's a pretty do-it-all guy. Great size already, great speed. I probably like him more than the duo Clemson got last year. My guy Jamarius Haynes, who I still love, but I think it's hard to argue he's better than David Eziomume, I believe it's pronounced. Okay.
Well, and I will say, we a lot of times we defer to On3. They seem to have the most recent weights. He's listed at 205 here on the sheet. I knew I had seen him under 200, 195. That's not terrible, but obviously you would like 205 already better. So interesting. I don't know exactly where he's going to line up, but totally agree on the receiving. And at that size and hitting over 21, there's a lot to like. I think he's kind of sudden. I wouldn't say he's like a juke master, but I think he's sudden with little one cuts that can be nice. I think I'm going to actually have him fairly high at the end of it all. Do you want to pull up the tiers? I forgot to do that, but here we go.
I would argue he is, I'd say just A, just flat A.
I'm fine with that. As far as this group, I would even maybe say S, because I think he's going to wind up for me. I think he's going to wind up a top 20 running back overall, regardless of 3 stars.
He's in, at the moment,
he might even be
close to my top 10.
So I think as far as sleepers are concerned, I would say
I think that's fair.
What else are you waiting for?
How do you feel, David?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I think the depth chart's pretty weak at Clemson, so
yeah.
And he's like he'll be physically ready to go right away.
I like that a lot. I think he kind of hits the definition of S tier for at least this purpose. All right, and if you weren't watching last week, which I hope you were, but this is a chart David made. We were tiering all the players, so you can see their guys from last week are still sitting there. We did not have an S tier for quarterback or tight end, and first running back off the board is an S tier, so pretty exciting stuff to kick off the show. I don't really have an order here, but I'm looking at this guy, and the size is blowing my mind. Brian Jackson, 6 feet 240, clocked at 20.2 miles per hour. He's a top 50 running back on the On3 composite, but 47, so pretty far down lists. David, I'll throw it to you. Do you have an opinion on Brian Jackson? And either one of you guys, of course, can veto and say the other guy should talk about him.
Yeah, according to my numbers, he's got the biggest neck in the class. So he's just an absolute unit. Like, he kind of looks like a linebacker. He's committed to USC, which I think that's the main thing here. That's the biggest issue, I feel like, because they got two pretty solid running backs the last class. I think he's more of short yardage goal line type of player. I don't know if he's ever going to be like a workhorse at USC at least. But as far as like his, he can always transfer with the portal thing going on. But I thought he moved pretty well for this dude that's 240.
240 is. There's actually another guy on this list listed at 240, but it's pretty rare.
Yeah, it's like huge. Part of me wants to tank him for where he's going, but the other part's like, well, the talent's pretty solid. So I'm like between B or C for him.
I'll go with B.
I'd go with B. He looks sudden. He had
one
some
of
movement there.
He's one of the better pure runners in this group, I think. Although he doesn't have a great top speed, I think he is very bursty as soon as he gets his hands on the ball.
Yeah.
I hate the USC landing spot. I mean, we got Joyner and Amari Peterson in the last class. It's hard to project him over these guys. I would probably have him over Peterson, but not Joyner. But either way, I'm just I'm hoping he flips.
All right, so we have. Let's move him to B. We like that. Okay. We'll stick with, and I'll talk about this guy, and I have a feeling at least Matt might disagree with me, but I came away pretty impressed with Cameron Jones. 6'1", 240 pounds, so another 240 guy. He's clocked at 20.9, so we're getting close to 21 at that size would be like elite, getting to be elite territory, but 20.9 doesn't quite make it there. Still very fast for a guy who's listed at 240 on 3, which is usually accurate. You can see he's pulling away from DBs here at 240 pounds. That's just unusual. But I thought he was also pretty nimble. He's not a plotter really at all. I mean, he's got a little juke in space there. He uses his size to his ability. And also, I'm not sure we'll see it on this little clip here, but he can catch. He definitely lined up sometimes outside. He also caught some out of the backfield. I mean, he can catch the ball. So checking truly every box. If he hit 21, which I know is arbitrary a little bit, 20.9, 21.0, who cares? But really fast. And if he's truly 240, I really like him. I would lobby for A. He's not committed yet. He may go to UCLA, which I think he would fit like a Zach Charbonnet mold there. But I know Matt, I've already talked to him offline. I don't think he's too impressed with Cameron Jones. So I'll let you guys duke it out.
Why are you muting me? I would say C. I just don't really see it. I don't think he's a huge tackle breaker. I mean, he does fight through tackle. He's 240. He should be. I don't think he's quite that nimble. Pretty fast. I just don't think he's I think Brian Jackson is a much better runner at this stage. Whereas Jones is more of a raw athlete, kind of just flying through, and he's playing at a pretty big school, and he's not a super highly recruited guy, which is always a bit of a red flag for me. So I would say C.
So it's on. I'll just split the difference. So we'll just jam him into B.
We could throw him to B.
I think the UCLA spot would be decent if he ended up there. But
that is true. I would like.
I like their running scheme in general.
I think he's trending. I mean, I don't know if he'll wind up there. He's from California. I think he's trending to UCLA, so maybe that will happen. All right, going to the other side of the country. This is a guy we've talked about before. Maybe we can not go too deep into it, but Gabriel Winovich has been a sleeper on our list for a little while. We talked about him on the Freak List preview, I believe. So he's a freak athlete. And going, I think, still headed to
Rutgers.
Oh, there he is. So, Matt, tell us about him briefly, and then we'll move on. But
yeah, I mean, he's extremely good testing agility-wise. Not the best, straight lines, top-end straight line speed, but I think he's, very bursty too. A very high-end lifting numbers on top of it. So, There's not a lot of projection there athletically. You kind of know what he is already, and I think he could eventually end up the starter there. I was a big fan of Sam Brown too, and he did pretty good last year as a true freshman. If he leaves after he's a junior, then that would open up a spot for Winovich pretty quickly.
Yeah, sounds good. I mean, I think a place like Rutgers, he definitely has room.
And
So second Rutgers.
I would argue B tier.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think you could just the athleticism. He doesn't have a lot of like breakaway straight line speed, but tremendous agility. 220. I would be okay with A. David, you want to break that tie? And Matt would probably be okay with it too, because I know you like him in general.
I think I would. Yeah, I think he's gonna have to wait a little bit for Samuel Brown and Rutgers. Their offense in general is not the most inspiring, and
Yeah, that's true.
as far as a player, I like him. So I would say B would be appropriate.
All right, B, maybe aggressive B. All right, let's move on to Harry Stewart, who comes in a size that I love. We've been talking about like 6-foot guys, but now we've got Harry Stewart, 5'10", 205. That is almost like an ideal prospect size and weight, height and weight. He also hits 21 miles per hour. We love that. This is a pretty nice starting point. On 3 composite running back 42. David, you want to tell us about Harry Stewart?
Yeah, he's another one of these running backs out of Texas, and he's the athlete that we're all looking for. I didn't really love his tape, I'll be honest. I thought I would like it more because generally speaking, I'm looking at like all his other specs, and I was like, oh, this guy he looks pretty good on paper, but it's been a while since I watched him. I think there's like the body control, like he's an arm waver, and I didn't think he
Rudderer.
Yeah, he's like a rudderer, which if he's like a one cut guy, it's not the biggest thing, but he's going to Kansas though, which is a good spot, I feel like, for him. Like I think that's the type of school he should be going to. And I could see him becoming the starter there just based off his physical attributes. I'm always going to like someone who's 200 plus that can hit 21 miles per hour. So he's probably like another B guy for me.
So I think something important about him that you didn't mention, awful production profile. I mean, arguably the worst in the class, pretty low overall in my database, like 5th percentile production we're talking about. So extremely, extremely low. So I would argue C or D, honestly.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Yeah, I looked at him because you're right. I mean, I'm looking at our spreadsheet trying to find sleepers for myself to kind of.
I knew there was a reason.
More. Say that again.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was going to say I knew there was a reason why he was so off-putting to me, and the production was just like he was really inefficient, which was the issue.
Yeah. Well, and this is hypothesis, but like the whole movement skills and what we say about arm waving and stuff. I agree with you. Like I think the 200 pounds, 21 miles an hour did not seem to show up on the field as a really good, smooth running back. Unfortunately, it just didn't seem to translate. So at Kansas, though, maybe, there's not tons getting in the way of getting on the field there. But I would say C, maybe D, just relative to this group. I did not. I watched him. I was excited, and I almost didn't even care after I watched him. So
I think C for now is fine.
Right.
He's still got that upside.
Yeah, maybe they tighten up his movements a little bit, learns how to get some body control there. All right. Wow, this is a guy I actually don't know. No composite rank, so who would put no composite rank whatsoever on this list? Matt, I feel like maybe it's a Matt guy. Hunter Andrews, 6'2", 215, hits 21 miles per hour. So that's, again, exciting, but no composite rank. So very, very big-time sleeper here.
Yeah, I mean, David and I both stumbled on this guy around the same time. He's very tall, but pretty decently well-built running back out of Texas. Just committed to Utah, which I absolutely hate. They've been loading up at running back, and I don't really exactly love his odds of getting him to start there, but very intriguing size, speed. He's got these long legs. He could really stride it out. I was surprised he didn't time faster, honestly. It was just, how it looks like he's running. Maybe he looks a little bit faster. It actually is, but 21.2 miles per hour is really high end at his size. So the potential's there. I just wish he did not commit to Utah.
Anything to add, David?
Yeah, I agree with all that. He's got a little Dawson Pendergrass to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the landings. Yeah, I would say he's. I mean, I don't know what you think for tier, but I would say like maybe like a C guy. I don't know.
Yeah, I would argue C or D.
Yeah. I don't love the tall, lanky running
Yeah,
back.
and he's not a huge
Yeah.
tackle breaker, or he's not shaking people in the open field.
D.
Yeah, all right, we'll D him.
Give him a D.
Boom.
All right. Jason Patterson, fairly highly ranked guy here. 6', 205, which you like that. And then again, he's nearly hitting 22 miles per hour. I think he was just recently rated as one of the faster players in the class by Real Analytics, who also does a lot of miles per hour work. I got to say, I watched the tape, really excited, and I wasn't sure it really – I don't know. I wasn't that impressed. I think he's kind of a straight line guy. Did he commit to Kentucky or already
I think he's uncommitted still.
All right,
he's taking a
uncommitted.
bunch of visits.
But David, I'll throw it back to you. Any thoughts on Patterson? I mean, my quick take is like I just thought he was kind of straight line, and I wasn't terribly impressed as a runner. He's obviously very fast.
I agree with that pretty much. I mean, the thing is, he's playing such bad competition. It's usually there's a pretty big hole, and he just runs straight through it, and no one's gonna. I mean, look at how much separation is there. It's just like he's 30 yards ahead of these guys. So as far as like having enough evidence on film to like project him to be a good player, especially like in the SEC, if he goes to Kentucky or Vanderbilt or wherever, we're just kind of guessing a little bit. Maybe we'll get a little more evidence as a senior. It's just 21.9 at 205. It's just so hard for me not to be tempted. And when we brought him up, like this guy was so far off the radar. Like, yeah, he's bumped up now, so it's not as cool of a sleeper anymore. But I think just his athletic profile maybe gets him to like a 4-star status potentially. I think how much I like him is probably like where he ends up going and how good his senior tape looks to me. I think probably like, I don't know, tier B, I guess, just because I kind of agree with you. Like the tape needs to improve.
Matt, thoughts? Because I wasn't going to be as generous with B.
So I would actually argue B or A, honestly.
Okay.
Although he is a pretty linear runner, he was extremely, like one of the most productive running backs in the country, even given his awful level of competition. So I think the upside's there, especially if he ends up at a lower end P5 school. He could really end up with some high end production, I think.
And I mean, yeah, I don't want to knock.
And I definitely like him more than the other running backs we have in B. Like just on the upside alone.
Okay. Yeah, then throw him in B, and I think, maybe sometimes I know for me, I can speak for myself, and maybe I think our listeners would maybe like to hear the process a little bit. I know I can like get too hung up on the one thing a guy doesn't do. So like, oh, he's not agile. He doesn't, change of direction isn't there. And then I just only think about that and I write a guy off. The fact that, like you said, 200 pounds and getting almost 22 miles per hour, like that will get you places. So I'm fine with B. Jordan Washington, our second Jordan Washington. This guy's from Alabama. He's 6 feet, 200 pounds, 21.7 miles per hour. So we love that. Very close, sniffing 22. Who knows? Maybe he hits it as a senior. Matt, what do you think? Jordan Washington from Alabama.
Yeah, he kind of reminds me a little bit of like Caleb Johnson, who went to Iowa, who is now decently highly coveted guy that I was in that class. But another like. All the guys we're going to talk about tonight. Another size speed guy. I mean, 200 pounds, 21.7 miles per hour. A lot to love there. He is extremely off the boards. I don't think he has a composite ranking last time I checked. You're going to be able to get him at the end of drafts unless he, gets a sudden spike in value. But we also don't know where his landing spot is yet. He's not the most agile mover. He's not going to, he did shake somebody there, but he doesn't really do that consistently. Definitely more of a one cut and go guy, and I think that's pretty much it.
Sounds good to me.
I would probably go C. I don't like him quite as much as the other guys, but I think depending on the landing spot again, he's uncommitted, so a lower end P5 or even a higher end G5, I would bump him up to B just on the production potential.
Yeah, I mean, I remember watching him, and I kind of liked him. I put him on my, I kind of combed through all the 3-stars, and some guys I don't pay much attention to, but some guys I'm like, oh, I definitely want to get an actual number grade on this guy and look at him a few times. So I did put him on my short list, even though he was way down the line. So I liked him as well. I would concur on tier 3.
Yeah, I agree.
All right.
Would you say B?
Well, I said
C.
C.
Oh, okay.
I didn't think you were going to go for B.
No. I
Okay, C.
Sorry.
Jordan Washington, Alabama, C. Okay, we probably need. We can just chat forever on these guys, but we probably need to maybe be a little more succinct here to get through. I'm just looking at the receivers. We've got so many to still go over. Kewan Lacey, we teased him last week because he is committed to Nebraska, which you got to like that landing spot. He's one of my favorite 3-star running backs in the class right now. He's super fun. He's, takes a hit in the backfield there, spins around, and then still has the ability to get outside. There's other stuff on this tape. Maybe his second play, he's got swag too. Like he points at a guy as he's running past him for a touchdown. I think you'll see right here, little screen pass. So he's lining up out wide there, breaks a few tackles here, stiff arm. So showing multiple moves, and right here he points at this dude right as he's like getting to the end zone. I mean, he's got some swag about him. He's kind of a fun, tough player. I really like this guy, actually, and I'll throw it to if anyone wants to concur or offer a dissenting opinion, but he's one of my – I mean, I'm going to have him pretty high. I think he's quite good.
I'm totally on board. I think easy S tier for me.
Yeah, S tier.
Yeah. There's one concern we should throw out there. Poor production profile, but he was teammates with do you remember the running back, David? He's playing FBS.
Kyson Brown, I think, at Arizona State.
Yeah, Arizona State, yeah. So he at least has a reason why, so I'll excuse it. But he should, if he doesn't step up this year, it'll be a bit concerning. But for now, S tier.
I'm in. All right, another guy I really like, but I won't necessarily talk about. I think Matt brought, I said Matthew because the guy's name is Matthew, but you brought him to my attention first, or when I mentioned him, you were like, I just saw him too. Matthew Fuller, 6 foot, 210, hits 21.5, composite running back 68. That's way too low. And now he's going to South Carolina, which is a great landing spot, I think. So introduce everyone, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much covered it. It's another straightforward profile here. A straight line guy, fast, big. Yeah, I really don't have much else for him. I don't think he's a particularly great tackle breaker or, a vader necessarily. He doesn't really show off those much in his tape, which is something I would definitely want to see a bit more. And on top of that, they gained Dontavius Braswell, who I had a higher grade on last year than I'm going to have a grade on Fuller. So that's all a bit concerning for me, and definitely, I'm not as hype as I was originally, let's just say.
Well, that's sad. But yeah, I agree. I think there's more of a straight line situation going on here, but big and fast. I just like South Carolina as a landing spot, but yeah, I mean, he could split time with Braswell anyway. So we'll see there.
I think B tier is fine for him.
Yeah, B tier is fine for me. Yeah. All right, David, I got to throw a guy to you, so I'm going to go Ofami J-Boy, 6 foot, 195, 21.2 miles per hour. Take it away.
Matt can talk about him if he wants. He found this guy, so.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm very in love with J-Boy. I'm going to pound the table to get him pretty high here.
Oh boy!
Out of Philadelphia, pretty big size speed guy, but he also has very good verified jumping numbers. Last week I misquoted his broad. I said it was 130. I think it's actually 124, which is great either way. But a 39-inch verified vertical, which is amazing for a guy listed 195. He really reminds me of like Israel Abanikanda. Just that, very. He's a bit skinnier right now, but I definitely think he can add a lot of weight, and he's an extremely bursty guy. 21.2 miles per hour too, and I think there's a lot to like there, a lot of growth potential. Going to Minnesota could very easily end up as a very high-end CFF producer there. So I'm going to pound the table for A here.
I mean,
he has just as much just as much
Yeah.
athletic ability as anybody we've talked here, plus going to a premier landing spot. I think you could argue S, honestly. But
I think you could argue. I was going to say, like, I mean, I've honestly not thought about this guy very much, but the tape was immediately impressive. He does show speed, burst, all the things you said. David, S tier or A tier? I would say I'd be fine with S. I mean, this is the first time I've been looking at this guy.
Yeah, he's ranked so low. I think it's even a
Running back
hot take.
99.
And he wasn't even ranked until just recently. Like,
we do have no clue what his production is. I've tried to dig for it, and I know he had almost
like
a
a small
300-yard
private
game
school.
last year, which is cool.
does he have catching on it on his?
We don't know about that either. I don't think he had any.
I don't know, because
Okay.
David Lacey and Ozama, whatever.
They are good.
They're pretty good pass catchers, but I think I'd lean
Well,
towards.
and going to Minnesota, he's not going to catch passes in Minnesota regardless. So
Yeah, that's true.
I think A is fair because he's not as solid of a as a devy pick as we think David and Lacey are. So I think we should do A.
all right, the Yassine Willis, 6 foot 220. David, it's all yours unless you're going to defer. 6 foot 220, 20.6 miles an hour.
I'll just put out a few things, and then Matt, I'm sure, could add on to it. So he recently got offered by Alabama, so that's like his big. I mean, that's a pretty big stamp of approval, and it does seem to matter from what Matt's like the R squared and getting offers from Alabama definitely carries some weight. His efficiency is the one thing is like the most concerning to me. Like he averaged 6 yards per carry exactly each of the last 2 seasons. And people are like, well, 6 yards per carry is pretty good, but in high school, not really. We're looking for more than that, and his competition, from what I recall, wasn't that great. But I will say, for his size, yeah, he's pretty explosive, moves pretty well. I think I'd prefer him at like a lower level P5, just and like the size. He could be he could handle a big workload. So I tier wise, I'd probably toss him in B or C. You guys can decide, I guess.
I mean, I watched him. I wasn't terribly impressed. I mean, you have a point with the Alabama offer, but I would say C. I was just not. I mean, he's big, but he looked a little slow just in terms of like cutting and almost playing in mud a little bit. When he gets going, he can get going, but that short area, not super great to me. So
I would argue B. I think something that you didn't really get to see on his tape is his receiving upside. Rivals camp recently, he kind of put on a show there, especially with his short, area movement, doing well in 1v1s and receiving. So I would argue B. If he does go to a premier like P5 program, I'll be a lot less interested. But I think if he goes low in P5, he could definitely be a pretty good producer. So I'll be fine with C2, but I would lean B.
all right. Alabama offer, get him up to B. That'll be the tiebreaker. All right, so just now we're getting to wide receivers. I think our listeners are enough of diehards that they're happy to continue to stick with us here. DeBron Gatling, 6 foot 185, hits 21 miles per hour on 3 composite wide receiver 92. Matt, tell us about Gatling.
Yeah, this is a guy that I've been on for a while now. In the 2024 preview show we did a year ago, he was one of my wide receiver picks. I was expecting him to rise in rankings a little bit. He didn't really, but I still do really like him. He's a good down the field threat. I would argue is amongst the best ball skills in the class, which is especially impressive considering he's only 5'11", 6 foot around there. Just consistently coming down with super impressive catches. I wish he was a bit better after the catch. Committed to Texas A&M, which, we'll see how that goes there this year before I want to make a huge determination there. But I would argue at least B, maybe A. I mean, his charting did come out really good for me. Just the services are so low on him still, so I don't know. And he does have weak spots. He's not very good after the catch, which is always something that gets me off a guy pretty quick.
I'd be okay with B, David.
Yeah, he did just run He ran a laser 4.47 at Texas A&M camp
Nice.
like a couple weeks ago, which is good. He's a weird one because like QB hit list, they haven't updated their rankings in a long. He's actually the wide receiver 1 on their website. They're probably too busy working on 2032 kids, but um,
Yeah.
so the only thing with him, he was like a freshman All-American, and like his raw statistics have pretty much stayed flat over the last 3 years. That's I don't know what to think of that. I don't know if that's like stats doesn't mean everything. I don't know if he's just plateaued as a player. Um, I would say B or C for me. He is super coordinated and he's pretty good a vertical player, but I think he's a little bit limited as an overall guy. I would say B or C.
Well, everyone said B, so I'm just gonna throw him there.
Yeah, I think the Texas A&M. I mean, just in general, when we're trying to project all the way to the NFL, like a guy like that going to Texas A&M, there's a little bonus track there in terms of getting noticed and all that kind of stuff. So Dorian Williams is next. David, I'll throw it to you. 6'2", 198 for this guy. Dorian Williams. Any thoughts?
Oh, he made the. So Dorian is like a basketball. He's converted from basketball. I don't think he's been playing very long. This is the type of guy that Vanderbilt usually grabs. Someone who's kind of unproven that like the higher P5 schools aren't going to bother. They don't need to wait. They don't need to wait to develop players. They're going to take the top tier guys. So, but he does move well. He is a pretty explosive guy. Plays above the rim, and he's a project, I think. And Vanderbilt's not a good spot really for fantasy. So there's definitely physical upside. I would say he's probably like a D guy for me. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I would disagree there. I thought you were gonna be a little bit higher. I mean, 10'6", 100 meter. I think he's in the 190s. Super impressive athlete. Vanderbilt actually not a bad CFF spot. Jaden McGowan is you could start him occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
Will Shepard's a highly coveted guy in CFF right now. So I think the upside's there. Only been playing football for 2 years. I would argue B or C.
I think C. I was thinking C.
I really like his upside.
Honestly, even on that clip right there, the second route was pretty nice. It was a simple little slant, but he actually sold it, I thought, a little bit. Just watching it immediately, I kind of saw like his shoulders were kind of one way, and then he flipped them real quick and was wide open on the slant. So maybe
I actually
there's a little
forgot about
nuance there.
I forgot about the track times. The 10.6 is pretty impressive for him.
He's pretty crazy.
He's like 6'2", 192, so he's not small. So yeah, that's impressive. I think C is good. Yeah.
C tier.
Right. We'll go C.
All right. We'll just go back and forth unless one of you guys is like particularly wants to not talk about somebody. But Elijah Basaya, 5'11", 170, on 3 composite, wide receiver 77. Matt?
Yeah, I can take him. So he was teammates Cordell Russell. He actually doesn't have any junior tape. I thought I saw some. Maybe I didn't. I believe I saw some camp stuff because he's been doing really good this offseason in that regard. Definitely more of a good route runner. Really good catch radius too at not a huge size. Not a high end athlete per se at his size. I don't think that matters too much for him. That's not really his game anyway. But he does burn these guys at least. Committed to Arizona State, I believe, which is I think a pretty promising spot going forward.
Yep.
So yeah, I think there's a lot to like there. The tape here isn't super impressive from his sophomore year. I think a lot of the offseason camp stuff I've seen has been a bit better. So I wouldn't argue against the C or D. It's more of a CFF bet, I guess, at this point.
Yeah. David, thoughts? I kind of like C. I kind of like Arizona. He's going to Arizona State, right?
I like Dillingham. I think he's committed there. Let's see.
Yeah, all right. I'm fine with C or D.
Yeah, he is committed.
So if you guys both say C, I would be fine with it. Not a tremendous opinion here.
Yeah, he's a solid bet, just not someone I'm super in love with. So I'll just throw him.
All right, David, moving along here. Elijah Moore.
Actually, I'm gonna go D. Okay. I think especially compared to like Dorian, who I'm much higher on.
All right, that's fair. Yeah, I mean you got to look and see what other guys are in the tier. I think that's fair. All right, David Elijah Moore, not the Elijah Moore who I loved at Ole Miss and is now on the Browns. So I don't know what will happen to his NFL career, but a different Elijah Moore. What do we think about this guy? He's a totally different type of receiver, 6'4", 190. So a much bigger player than the other Elijah Moore who's in the NFL.
Yeah, he's definitely an ascending player. I actually drafted him in that first mock draft we did in the 4th round, just as like a wild card pick. But he's super physical, plays with a ton of energy. This is something I'm starting to value more as I go through these high schoolers. I think he's got to have like a 6'10" wingspan, and he does use his length. You could see it recently if anyone wants to look up like some of his catches from OT7. He pretty much blew up OT7. Look at that, how he dives in like that. I like that. A little swag to him.
Yeah.
He was a top performer pretty much every day for On3 at the OT7 this summer. The speed isn't great, I feel like, at this point, but I do love his frame. I do think that he will put on 15 pounds of muscle pretty easily. And I think he'll improve. I think he'll get a little twitchier, a little faster. Depends how much I like him depends where he's going. It sounds like he's leaning after visiting Florida State that he might be leaning Florida State now. If he goes to Ohio State, then I think he just gets lost in the shuffle, like a lot of guys.
Yeah, you'd have to like FSU, I think.
Yeah, FSU is pretty. They got a bunch of bodies too, but it's not as bad. So, we gotta keep this shorter. I would say, I don't know. What do you guys think? Like, I think on upside he's an A guy for me, but like,
I would say A. I really like him. Brian Hartline's been going after him.
That's a big stamp of approval. That's as good as the Bama offer for a wide receiver.
So yeah, I would argue A. If he does go to Ohio State, I'll definitely be bumping him down. But David and I have been super high on him, since the beginning of the process, pretty much. Then he's been outside On3's top 100. Showed out at OT7. Now he's within their top 50. So that's something I'd love to see.
I'm in for A too. I mean, there's just little things that like make you just say wow. And even on that short clip, there's only a few plays, but he a stop and go where he really planted, he really sold it. And at 6'4", being able to like have that kind of body control is really nice. I mean, sometimes there's just little things that most guys don't do. So I'm happy to give him A tier for that reason and all the things you guys said. I'll take this guy, added him to the list myself. Israel Geraldo is a 3-star. Probably going to be a slot type, but I just really liked him. I mean, he hits 21 miles per hour, and he's a decent size. He's not one of these 165, 175 pound guys. He's 5'11", 185, which actually is fairly, thick for this stage in the process. I thought he was incredibly shifty, really, really hard to get a good hand on. Showed some yak ability, showed some, kind of like doesn't go down to the first hit. Like, look here. I mean, he's getting all sorts of hands on him and arms on him, and he just doesn't go down. He's moving in traffic. I thought, it wasn't simply, he's fast in a straight line or something, but he seems to really be able to, use that body control after the catch in almost a running back sort of way. So I was pretty impressed. Kind of came out of nowhere for me, just scrolling down some the 3-star lists and looking at guys. So I would say, I'm not sure if you guys have an opinion. I would say at least C tier for me. I just think he's like really good. I think he's a good player. I know he doesn't have hardly any. He's 136th on the On3 composite, but
I think C is fine. I think my only red flag with him is he was technically in the 2023 class. He's going to prep school 1 year, and then he'll be, which is why he's considered the 2024 class now.
See, I didn't know that. You guys
that's a tiny bit concerning.
Yeah.
And, playing awful Northeast competition. So there's also that. But
okay.
I think the athletic upside is enough for C tier. And he's really good after the catch. His tape is fun. So
leaning towards Maryland, so he could get like a legitimate, team with potentially legitimate offense too. So yeah, all right, I'm fine with C.
There's some risk that he might play defensive back too, but if we just ignore that and just consider him a wide receiver, I think the tape is good enough for a C tier.
All right.
All right.
All right. Jason Robinson, Matt, or
I'll take him.
okay,
I
Matt,
was just
Matt,
talking
go
about him
for
at the
it.
end of last show, so
Okay.
might as well continue now.
Oh yes, just committed to Washington.
Super refined guy. That's really the big selling point. But I do think he has a really well-rounded game. Good ball skills there. He's just going to be able to get open with ease at the next level. He has good hands. He's pretty good after the catch. The frame is a bit concerning. We don't know how much he actually weighs. As Alfred alluded to, on through has him listed 145. Rivals has him listed as high as 170. So he's probably somewhere in the middle of that. But either way, I don't think that really limits his game. I mean, he's not, his game doesn't really rely on his size at all. Going to a hyper-productive offense for wide receivers, I think there's a ton to like there. So I would argue B or A.
I'm going to say B just because of this big weight question. I mean, if he's even 155, that'd be tough to put him in A. So
That's
160, fair. Whatever. And for the sake of time, I'm going to go, unless David has a strong opinion to do something other than B, I'm just going to go to Justice Williams, who's also going to Washington, and that was kind of David's guy in the last show, so you can talk about him a little bit more here.
So he's another one of these physical guys. So I thought he was a little, like right here, he looks pretty fast to me. I thought he was a 21 mile per hour guy. I think we got him at I got him at 20.6. So, it's all right speed. But he plays really hard. I think he's pretty good after the catch, like pretty strong after the catch. How much do I like? It's hard to say how much I like him. I liked him relative to where he was ranked, which was nowhere. He just wasn't on any radars. So I do think he will rise. I could easily see him being recruited over, though. Washington's been doing pretty well recruiting receivers. So I guess I would say I'm like leaning between C and D, honestly. Like I like Robinson more as like a refined player and stuff like that. So I'll say D. What do you guys think?
I'm good with C.
I'm good with C.
The upside there is good enough.
Yeah, you said he had 20.6, but man, he looked faster than that. I agree. But then maybe that's why we want the MPH, because sometimes it looks deceiving. All right, well, so C is fine with me, and the landing spot's ideal. I mean, not that I'm gonna like bump a guy too high because of that, but it's something to consider. And Washington's awesome. So, all right, and then Kobe Young, Matt, you'll probably go back to back here with the next two, and then we'll finish with David. But Kobe Young here, going to what? Colorado State? Is that right?
No, Georgia Tech, which
Georgia Tech. Okay.
Put me off of him a little bit, but playing pretty small school Louisiana competition, but I mean, he's pretty dominant in that regard, playing against them at least. I think he's a pretty well-rounded do-it-all guy. He can go up and get the ball. He's good after the catch. He's a pretty decent athlete, too. We got him at 21.2 miles per hour. He has some reported testing that I don't trust enough to put in our database because it's so insanely ridiculous that I don't think it's real, so I won't even bother saying it. But I do think the athletic upside is there. He is, after the catch, showing off that a little bit more. But I don't exactly love the landing spot, so I've kind of died down on him a little bit. I would probably argue C tier.
He's probably fine. I mean, Georgia Tech's going through a complete overhaul on everything, I think. So hard to say what they'll look like going forward. But not terribly inspiring off the bat here. And I was thinking of, I think it's Corey Hall. So he's going to Colorado State.
Yep.
Another K name with a short last name.
Corey Kobe.
I don't know.
One letter off.
Yeah. So all right. So Kobe Young, I'm fine with C. David, any thoughts there?
Yeah, I think C is good.
Okay.
All right. Now, this next guy, just say the name, Matt, and then say the tier. I think we all know where this is going. But Kyan Barry Johnson.
S tier. I mean, come on.
S tier. You can enjoy the tape, watch the tape. It's very fun.
And I decide not to throw in the one-handed catches. I mean, I have a highlight reel of him grabbing 4 one-handed catches, super clean too. But he can do stuff outside of that, going to Wisconsin. I think he can like thrive in a slot role or maybe even outside a little bit. He's a bit skinny. That's probably a big knockback, but I mean, he has such a complete profile for me outside of that. I just really love him as a player, and I'm incredibly high on him compared to the.
I mean, that move right there, even caught it essentially in traffic, still was able to, evade a safety coming in the middle of the field. Like there was no sideline to help him, there was no blocker. He just did it, still accelerated after that. I mean, there's some special stuff with this kid. I have to say, like, he could be a complete explosion. S tier, no question to me.
David, any objections?
No, I think we want that Longo slot guy too. So
yeah, that's the other thing I was going to mention. I mean, the Longo slot player. We mentioned Josh Downs. Like that's could be an absolute gold mine. All right, Will Cianfrini. I don't know much about him. David, do you have an opinion on Will Cianfrini here?
Yeah, no one knew about him until the Elite 11. The Elite 11 finals is he pretty much went. I mean, a lot of it was on air, but he just made an incredible catch after incredible catch, and all the coaches at the Elite 11 wouldn't stop talking about him. Since then, he's nabbed an offer from Cal, I think UNLV. He can't at Penn State. They haven't offered yet, but I think they are considering him. But he's interesting because he hadn't played until this past year. I don't think he had played football until since like 7th grade. He is a basketball player. He's got a bunch of sweet dunks. Go check that out. But yeah, he's like this tall dude who's got crazy body control. I don't think he's the fastest guy or anything, but mostly jump ball. But he's got some quickness to him. I think he can be an all right route runner. How much I like him kind of depends on landing spot, but I don't know. He's like he was totally off the radar, and just to be ranked is pretty cool. I would say C.
Shit,
I agree.
C.
I think C.
Sorry, I guess I can't say that. C is pretty impressive from the story you just told. I mean, he didn't even sneak into D, so that's great. Fine with that, Matt? You want to put him in there?
I'm totally on board.
2 more. I realized I hadn't uploaded 1 video, so we're going to go back up to Josiah Martin, who we should have talked about already.
Well, David can take Josiah, and I'll do Vosky.
And then you'll finish the Vosky. Okay. Yeah. Josiah Martin, who I think we talked about on the commitment show recently, but pretty fast guy, right?
Yeah, he's got a verified 4.4 640, like a 33-inch vertical. He's got good verified testing. He is a really good route runner, and he's one of these Texas kids that works with that Margin Hooks wide receiver coach, independent wide receiver coach. So he's always posting clips, like improving his footwork. You can see it right there. So he's already pretty refined, which you have to like that. I mean, you just don't see a lot of refined receivers at this stage. He's kind of a 0 after the catch, so I'm hoping to see improvement on that as a senior. But I don't like him as much as Jason Robinson. He's somewhat of a similar player. I would say I'm between. So like Boston College, like he could like with his route running, he could be like the number 1 guy there potentially. Maybe like it's just, are they ever going to get a good quarterback at Boston College? And like I'm just thinking fantasy wise.
Ryan Puglisi is going to go there. Mark my words.
I feel, yeah, I could see that since he's from Massachusetts. I think probably B.
B is pretty good.
I'll argue B or C.
Yeah, I was.
The
between
only
those
thing
two.
is that he's smallish, and I mean he was not the number 1 receiver. I don't think last year. Not that you have to be as a junior, but
I like Kobe Young pretty similarly to him too. So
yeah, I think C's fair.
All right, C tier. B tier is pretty packed anyway. We can make that the tiebreaker.
We got decent distribution between the tiers here, I think.
We do. Actually, it's pretty good. Pretty good bell curve there. All right, Vosky, Howard, Matt, take it away. Bring us home. It's been quite a night here.
Yeah, so he is teammates with Terry Boosie, who's his quarterback. He plays wide receiver for them, pretty full time. and he is I think he has the longest long jump in the country for juniors this year, which is pretty crazy, over 24 feet. So a crazy explosive bursty guy, listed as high as 185 pounds. I clocked him at 21.2 miles per hour. So athletically, there's a lot to love there. I mean, it's kind of unfair that Tipson can have two incredibly freaky athletes like this with him and Boosie. But he's definitely more of a yak guy at this stage, not overly refined. I don't think he really has a ton of play showing off his ball skills either. He's really just a get the ball in his hands and let him kind of take off, like you'll see here. So I think his game's a bit limited, but he's definitely a higher upside guy for sure, and another guy who's really unrated by the services for how athletic he is.
So what do you think? It's C or would you go B?
I would say B or C. It's tough. We don't have a landing spot on him. I think if he had a good landing spot, we could argue B, but I think maybe at this stage he's probably a C.
David?
Yeah.
Tiebreaker?
Yeah, I would say a C guy for me.
Yeah,
I think that sounds about right. All right, we've got our board here. This is our sleepers. These are all 3-star guys or below. I don't think there's any completely unranked guys, but they're at least 3 stars. We got S tier. Remind me, it's David Izumumi, Tywin Lacey, and then Kyrie Johnson. So those are your guys who, I wouldn't be shocked. All 3 of them, to be honest with you. And we're talking about the 2024 football season that they'll be on campus, but I wouldn't be shocked if all 3 of those guys make a splash year 1, which is why they're S tier. But with the transfer portal, you never really know on depth chart. But those guys are all really, really exciting prospects. So absolutely circle them. They will be drafted, I think, in freshman drafts, no matter what they are right now. Okay, well, awesome, guys. That was great. This was a heavy, heavy sleeper show. And we got a bunch of names out there for our listeners, our loyal listeners. And I guess I won't see you guys for a couple weeks, but we'll put out 2 shows. And thanks for all your hard work. I guess that's it for me. This has been The Official.